to report that after 9 years of futility, Cal coach Justin Wilcox was fired. I saw the announcement on my Instagram feed just about now 37 minutes ago. I would say 40 minutes ago. My friend Vern Glenn, KPIX sports director, put out there that Wilcox was fired. And my first thought was, wow, nice, good, because I wanted that to happen yesterday. Others think that it shouldn't have happened so soon. I think, frankly speaking, it's a few years too late. I have not been a fan of how Coach Wilcox has ran this organization. Now, I want to thank him for some great memories that we've had over the years, but they come at a really, really tough to deal with period where it seemed like more often than not, we were either not or almost. And the performance he turned in as a coach and what it resulted on the field happened at a time when college athletes were marching toward the place they are now, which is being compensated for playing football in college. Now, what does that mean? It means you have to get people in your house as coaches who are going to respect the players, who are going to keep the players and not chase them away. All right? Not chase them away. Justin, prior to that, let's put on the table what Justin was good at. He was good at helping our student athletes maintain their grades. He was great and really stood up for them when they needed an advocate because, let's face it, both UC Berkeley and the city of Berkeley were not handling the COVID-19 problem appropriately with respect to the needs of the football program, and Justin heroically stood up for them. I give him credit for that, 100%, okay? 100%. But what I don't give him credit for is running off and interviewing with our rival Oregon to be head coach when you need a person who's going to not only stand tall for the players, but stand tall for the program and stick with the program through thick and thin. He didn't do that. And a number of people, when I would say in past years, hey, you know what, don't you think it's time to make a change? Well, there's that buyout of $20 million, okay? I get it. But we're in an area, the San Francisco Bay Area, where our rival Stanford had a $500 million endowment for football when Dave Shaw was the coach. And I believe they have something equivalent to that with Andrew Luck as general manager. They've amassed a great deal of money recently to focus on name, image, and likeness and getting the kind of Stanford players, what kind of players that Stanford wants, to the farm. Cal needs to have a laser focus on building the kind of football team that reflects the university. So if I have ideas, for example, with respect to offensive football, if I have a playbook I want to share, I should be able to do so with a coach who's comfortable enough to say to me, hey, Zinni, I love it. Let's send this to my email address. And by the way, tell me what your idea is, all right? That wasn't Justin. How do I know? Because I ran into him through a mutual friend at Kingfish a few years ago, and I had this playbook idea I wanted to share. Well, Justin, I understood that he was finished with his game, right? I understood that he was tired. Okay, I get that in retrospect. But look, if you're really interested in ball, you have no problem talking ball with anybody, especially if you're going to sit in the bar and drink, all right? If you're going to sit in the bar and drink, okay, drink. You mean you can't talk ball with me? And that was how he came off. I was really put off by that, and it never left my head. I thought, this guy, if he's not interested in talking ball with me, it's no wonder we're not doing well as a team. And imagine how he treats other people. We have went through offensive coordinator after offensive coordinator after offensive coordinator after offensive coordinator. It seemed like we've changed out offensive coordinators at least the last 4 years, okay? And we've changed out offensive coordinator more than the Marcos has shoes. It seems like, all right? How do you establish offensive stability when you cannot hold on to your key position coach, the offensive coordinator? What does that say for players like Fernando Mendoza? All right. Fernando was our Heisman guy, not Indiana's Heisman guy, our Heisman guy. But we developed Fernando, we brought him in. We did nothing of value to really keep him. He said, and a lot of people bought it. I didn't. Fernando's thing was, well, you know what? My mom is sick and I have to be close to my mom. I thought, well, wait a minute. If his mother is sick, then how come he's talking to, well, other colleges, not where he's from, right? Okay. There was something there I really felt, okay, I really believed was not quite on the up and up with how that was handled with respect to Mendoza's people. They should have just simply said, you know what? We just want out. Okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. I get it. All right. But the simple fact of the matter is he left, he went to Indiana, and I'm telling you, I'm saying all this for this reason, because Fernando Mendoza is going to get the Heisman. Fernando Mendoza is going to get the Heisman. And when he receives the Heisman Trophy in a few weeks, that'll be the ultimate slap in the face to Cal football. All right, that will be it. The ultimate slap in the face to Cal football. There is no reason why we should have let Mendoza get out of the door, and yet that happened. This man was a fighter and a winner, and we let him walk out. But he wasn't the only one. We lost 9 top players. Jaden Ott, right? Great running back, played with Mendoza, out the door. Why? Because we brought in Brian Harsin, and Brian decided he was going to show his you-know-what and be a you-know-what, and basically say, cause these players say, you know what? I can do better someplace else. And they did. They did. All of this happened under Justin's watch and more, all right? And so at some point you say, when does enough become enough? And I thank God that I don't know, perhaps my buddy Mike Silver does, but I don't know exactly who it was that decided to pull the trigger. Maybe it was Rivera, hopefully the general manager. Whatever the case, I'm glad it was done, because we were looking like a laughing stock by holding on to somebody who was putting in a mediocre effort, who wasn't for Cal football to the point where he wouldn't. That is not the kind of behavior that anybody should tolerate from Cal's head football coach. You don't go off and interview with our Pac-12. This is Pac-12. This is before the Pac-12 existed. This wasn't like, between conferences, right? When conferences were forming and we wound up with the ACC. No. This was before that, okay? This was before that, all right? Before that. So, he gave us the image of a college organization, a top-tier college organization at the school that is credited with developing the atomic bomb. Let's face it, that's our legacy. With a football team that looked like it was put together with spit and baling wire. All right? A football team whose recruiting effort went from one of the tops in the late 90s. We had Jeff Teffert, okay? I think and then we had Bruce, I forgot Bruce's last name prior to Jeff Tedford. But my whole point is we were putting in some of the top recruiting classes in the country. We were drawing and creating some of the top recruiting classes in the country. We went from 8th to, I believe it was 92 under Justin, maybe even worse. All right? Worse? Seriously, all right? This is the place. This is the organization that is supposed to make money for the school. You can't make money for a school if you're putting out an image that people don't want to be a part of. You can't do it. It doesn't make any sense. It's not possible. It's nonsensical. And yet, that's what we're allowing Justin Wilcox to do to us every single year. At what point do we have enough pride in the University of California, Berkeley to say, you know what? We're not going to allow this anymore. This is a good first step. But the ultimate step will be who we hire as head coach. All right? This is a place worth being at. There are a lot of great coaches who know what they're doing, who deserve a shot at the Cal job, at least to be considered. I mean, you would say, all right, Zenny, our program is such that who would want to be here? I'll tell you, a number of people who would love to interview, and I believe should be drawn in as interview people to talk to interview is, hey, Dave Shaw. You heard what I said. Dave Shaw is the passing game coordinator with the Detroit Lions. He was head coach with Stanford. Why not do the old switcheroo? Remember Mike Montgomery coached at Stanford for basketball, but then we brought him in to coach at Cal, and he did really well. So why not do that again? Dave Shaw knows the Bay Area. He knows the ins and outs. He knows enough, and he knows enough technical football to be more than effective and highly well respected, and develop a team of teachers around him that will teach the game and really put Cal football back on the map like that, okay? I believe Dave Shaw could be that guy if he wanted the job. That's the question. And we need to go after a person like that. And if it's not Dave Shaw, then how about Jeff Dixon, the offensive coordinator at Syracuse, who I know Syracuse, took a drubbing this year and hasn't been the greatest year for them at 3-8, but Notre Dame was awful. I get that. But last year, Jeff was the belle of the ball in his quarterback development. And there's no reason why he can't replicate that success as head coach at Cal at all. None. There are other names that I will come up with in subsequent weeks, but those are the two, Dave Shaw and Jeff Nixon, that stand out in my mind. You probably have your own. And my thought is we need to really bring in people who know how to teach football, and because of that, they would add to the culture of the university, which is about what? Teaching, all right? Experts at football at this stage, where students are being paid to play the game. So if students are being paid to play the game, it's only logical that they have as head coaches people who are used to working with professionals in the NFL, who can come to college and bring that professional acumen to the college level. David Shaw has done that. And I think he should be the number one candidate that we go after for Cal football, David Shaw. But David would not make the kind of mistakes that Justin has made. David isn't this boorish figure like Justin was, at least to me. All right. And I'm just laying it out there because he was. All right. Now, we've had some great memories with Justin. That time a few years ago, we were down on the farm, all storming the field. I have video of that. That was a ton of fun. But there's no reason. I think someone says, how about Troy Taylor, who got fired? No, I'm not for Troy Taylor. I'll tell you why. Because, Troy Taylor has a sexual harassment claim that he has to deal with, all right? So why do we want to bring that in? I'm just saying, all right? I hate to put the dirty laundry out there, but it's there. Just so you know. I get that Troy Taylor's has been a great Cal quarterback and all that. I understand that he was successful at lower places in college, but my issue with Troy Taylor at Stanford separate from the in-house allegations that have been broadcasted, is that Troy did not engineer a hard-nosed running game to go with his passing attack. What I mean by hard-nosed, I mean big offensive linemen that understand how to direct hat-on-hat block and tight ends that block well, so you can build a play action attack off that running attack. Didn't see that from Troy. I saw some interesting passing concepts though that I liked, but I didn't see that hard nosed running game that I believe we needed at that the Stanford needed to win, let alone would be great for Cal to have. I didn't see that from him. Now Dave Shaw was known for that. Okay, so as remember Greg Roman, he was the offensive coordinator. I don't know that Greg Roman has any interest in being a head coach. Uh, I think that if he did, he would be very effective from a schematic perspective. But in terms of motivating players in college, all right, Greg Roman's been in college. He's been in college as the offensive coordinator. But head coach and recruiting isn't something I think he wants to do. Now, how the heck do I know that what the man really wants? You give him an offer, maybe that's something that's a dream of his. All right. I still contend, however, that Dave Shaw has been at Stanford. He's been successful in the Bay Area. He's well known, well liked. He's in Detroit now as passing game coordinator. He ought to be offensive coordinator with the Lions. Why not Cal head coach? Why not use the Mike Montgomery formula, but directed at Dave Shaw? Okay? Okay? Why not that? Why not that? I think that's something that should be explored. I think that's something that we should do. But we also have to set standards and expectations for football so we don't get into these situations where we have subpar performance by our head coach in terms of how that person treats staff, in terms of how that person retains coaches, in terms of how that person builds the program. We need to have a model for how we want the program to look. And that's, again, why I mentioned Dave Shaw, because he has experience at building that kind of program. Why not at Cal? And I think he would work very well with Ron Rivera. In fact, I would be shocked if that weren't the case. I really would. So I'll close with this. Go Bears, everyone. We need to set a better model for the future, and I can't think of a better person to do it than the person that built Stanford football and built Andrew Luck. Jim Harbaugh has a job, but how about the guy that Jim Harbaugh hired to be his offensive coordinator at Stanford? He became one of the greatest head coaches in college football history, Dave Shaw. So, Scott, all right? Someone says, how about Sean Lewis, San Diego State? Why? I don't know anything about him. I know Dave Shaw. Okay? Why do I want to know? Why do I want to bring up somebody whose way with staff I don't know, whose culture I'm not aware of? I personally know Dave Shaw. All right? I know how he is. I know he is as a man, as a gentleman, as a leader, as an adult, okay? As a manager. Why would I want to lean on this gentleman from San Jose? So I'm saying he's doing a great job, but how do I know that can be translated to Cal football? I don't. Now, you would say, wait a minute, Dave Shaw had 3 losing seasons at Stanford. He did. And I believe that has to do with an overfocus. There was something going on in the background where he gave up that running attack, right? That hard-nosed running attack that they engineered. But at Cal, he could restore it again. He would have a greater access to better talent at Cal than at Stanford. Stanford has rigorous costs requirements, on top of academic requirements. We have academic requirements that are considerable as well. But there's that cost issue, okay? I know Berkeley has its cost issue too, but I'm saying Stanford, is even higher in terms of its hurdle rates to get students that play great football, and yet, Stanford's always getting people who are great student athletes. I'm not even going to put that out there as a question mark. But I believe Dave Shaw can build that program at Cal. I don't know anything about the person you're suggesting. I know who you're talking about, but I do not know if that person is truly right for the job as opposed to someone just throwing out another name. I think Dave Shaw be right for the program. I really do. All right. Go Bears. Beat Stanford. Let's get the guy that can engineer a program to do it. Dave Shaw. We'll see you.